telling reporters that the Michigan players feel betrayed. Um, Makes sense to me. Um, Sharon Moore sold them a fake bill of goods when they were coming out of the transfer portal or coming out of high school. Um, and this Michigan program right now is at a crossroads that kind of leads me to ask the question: should Michigan prioritize culture over football? I'm a firm believer that if you have the right culture in place, then the winning will follow. Um, I grew up in a time when Michigan may not have been a very good football team per se, under Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke, but there was good people in the building, and having that character and that those ethics in the building, leading those young men, was kind of the saving grace of being a fan. And right now, we have a lot of non-integral people, but also the wins are not that impressive. 9-3 is not terrible on paper, but when you consider that we struggled and almost lost against multiple teams who are not very good, and the only three losses that we have were to the three best opponents. The football on the field not very good either. So should they prioritize culture over football? In the short term, I say yes. There is a stigma about the program now. There's a lot of people who are uncomfortable with the program now. Can't blame them. Any coach, like who's going to want to come here? Is Jedd Fisch going to want to come here? Is Kalen DeBoer going to want to come here? Is Kenny Dillingham going to want to come here? Because they'd be leaving good situations where they're trusted, where they are liked for the most part. But do you really want to adopt that plethora of scandals and bad image and whatnot? I mean, it's kind of like when Kalen DeBoer took over at Alabama. Nobody wants to follow the greatest coach of all time, but somebody had to. So somebody's going to be the coach of this team next season. Dillingham, DeBoer, Fisch, even Poggi. You never know. But whoever they are, I think they have to prioritize culture over winning in the short term. What can Biff do for this program in the short term? Well, he is a leader of men. He's a failed coach at the college level, but he's a leader of men. He is the opposite of Sharon Moore in regards to his character. That is important. These players trust him. These players like him. And these coaches respect him. And he's very well respected amongst the college ranks everywhere else. Nick Saban has even talked highly of him. I think that at the very least, Biff can be the guy to keep the team together on a set goal in place as a team, a set goal in mind, and might just be able to convince a few guys to stick around. And that's big, because you and I both know that this team, they might not be the most elite team out there, but they have a ton of good young talent on this roster that other programs in the country are going to want to poach. And that's probably what they're already doing. I don't know how tampering works in college, if it even is a thing, but if tampering is a thing, then we already know what's happening. Hell, Michigan's probably participating. Who knows? And this will affect recruits in the future. Families are not going to be as willing to send their sons here unless the culture is fixed. These players are not going to be willing to come here if every bit of success that they have is just going to be questioned. They're not going to want to come here if the development is not in place for them to go to the next level. It's just not going to happen. Part of that culture is the development of these guys going to the next stage of their careers. That's not happening either. Bryce Underwood is a very talented individual who honestly, if he had gone to LSU, probably would have put up much better numbers and looked more like a 5-star. He had 5-star moments, but he didn't have a 5-star season. And I liked it as a fan when the program was perceived as being respectful and integral and all these different things. And I just feel like this team needs a reset from the bottom up. I don't want anybody from the Harbaugh era to be involved. Jedd Fisch is one of those guys. He might be the only exception to that because he wasn't under Harbaugh for that long. But we need to start over. We need a new regime of coaches. We need a new regime of recruits. We need everything. We need to start rebuilding not just the football on the field, but we need to rebuild the way that we are perceived. This team is better than what they have shown, not just on the field, but off of it too. Jim Harbaugh, to me, you can say what you want. As a Christian man, there's a lot of things that Jim did off the field that I respect and admire wholeheartedly. And so I do think that he has a good heart. I think he has good intentions. He is very hell-bent on giving people a fair opportunity to really show what they can do, which is, I think, was his original idea behind suggesting that Sherrone Moore be elevated, because he felt that Sherrone Moore at the time earned an opportunity. Now, obviously, it didn't work out. And obviously, Jim Harbaugh, in his later part tenure of being at Michigan, was overshadowed with scandal. But I do think he's a good person at heart. But even with that said, I've said it in prior videos and I'll say it again. Perception matters. Perception matters in the AP ranking. It matters in recruiting. It just matters. It matters in bragging rights. So the long-term goal should absolutely be to be a perennial, consistent 10-plus win team year in, year out. The goal should always be to beat Ohio State. The goal should always be to compete for Big Ten titles and national titles. That's the long-term goal that needs to be focused on. But in the short term, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. There is more to what we are hearing at the University of Michigan than what we have been given so far. There's more stuff going on in that building. I want all of it. I want every piece of BS that's going on in that building to be taken to the surface. I don't care how bad it makes us look. I don't care if it's more scandals. Get it all out, address it, so that we can move on accordingly. And Ward Manuel his seat is made out of charcoal right now. It's hot. He may have saved his job for a couple of years with his hiring of Dusty May. But the football program is what really generates the big money. And the football program is the one that has the slander at the moment. He needs to do a better job. Plain and simple. I'd like to transition into the coaching search. We are the highest profile coaching search at the moment in the country. And it's really down to two guys, realistically. It's down to Jedd Fisch from Washington, and it's down to Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State. What was Kenny Dillingham actually saying in his press conference? We all saw how visibly emotional he got. We all saw how passionate he is for Arizona and for Arizona State. We know his family's there. We know he's from there. We know that he cares about it. And at the surface level, it might be easy to assume that, well, he's crying and getting emotional and all these things because he just truly loves the place. And that tells me he's not going anywhere. But I'm not so sure. Soul kind of where my rationale lies with all of that is you're already there. You're already working or in talks for a contract extension. You already know that they want you. We already know all of these things. So I find it odd to a degree, a little suspicious, whatever, that you would get that emotional over something that you already have. And, it could be, honestly, I mean, it could just be as simple as he just loves the place that much that it just makes him emotional. Kind of like when you talk about how much you love your kids or your wife or whatever, and you might get emotional from that. And that's understandable and that's fair. And that's obviously a possibility. Something seemed different to me, though. I think Kenny knows that he's high on Michigan's wish list. And I think he knows that he'd be a fool to not take that job if they were giving it to him or offering it to him. And so I think that although he loves where he's at, loves the relationships that he's built, I think that emotion coming out was him saying that I might have to go, that I might have to take this job because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to coach at a blue blood program, one that's going to be able to pay me a hell of a lot more than Arizona State. So, people will look at that and just kind of write it off because it's like, well, I mean, obviously he's not going to leave. Look at him. Same with Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer can put out whatever statements he wants about how he loves Tuscaloosa and plans on staying there, but he's also in the playoffs and it's coach speak. What else is he going to say? That'd be kind of my argument. I guarantee you, if Alabama loses to Oklahoma, Michigan will offer him a buyout, or will offer Alabama the buyout for him the next day. I guarantee it. So I think Michigan fans and Michigan themselves are probably rooting heavily for Oklahoma. Kenny Dillingham is young. Kenny Dillingham is innovative, and by all accounts is a good person. So he kind of fits all the boxes there. I don't think that he is as married to Arizona State as what that press conference might lead you to believe. With that said, there's Jedd Fisch on the other side. And I can't get a beat on Jedd Fisch completely. He's a hard one to form a real opinion of because he has been involved in some very impressive coaching trees in his career, both at the college and pro level. And he has been successful. He resurrected Arizona from nothing. He took over a 1-11 Arizona team, got to 10 wins. I'm trying to remember who they beat in a bowl game. I believe it was Oklahoma. So he does have a history of turning programs around. Turning programs around. I've seen him in interviews. He seems personable. He doesn't have any scandals on his resume, so that's good. My question with Jedd, though, is what exactly is his ceiling? I think my gut feeling is telling me that his ceiling is probably a college football playoff berth and maybe a win in the CFB, but then really nothing past that. Would he be a kind of perennial 9-3 coach at Michigan? Probably. But at the same time, when you're in a rebuild in multiple ways, the way Michigan is, having a guy who is consistent is super important. I don't think that Jedd Fisch would be the guy to go, 9-3, 8-4, 6-6, 10-2, 9-3. I think he'd be pretty much 9-3 every year. Maybe a little bit better if he gets lucky with the schedule. Right now, on I believe it was Bet Online. I don't remember which betting site it was, but they had him down as like a 65% chance to be hired, and Dillingham was like a 2-1 favorite or something like that. Like slightly like 30% or something. I don't know where they get these percentages from. I don't pay them any mind all that much. I mean, they don't mean anything because at the end of the day, Michigan could go with none of these guys and go with somebody that was never on the radar. They might go with Eli Drinkowitz. Who knows? Who has like a 2% chance, however way they calculate that. Um, but I am slowly starting to be okay with the idea of Jedd Fisch, just because he is a nice guy. He does have the record of turning programs around. He's never had a problem off the field that we know of, and I think he will at least keep us relevant and competitive on a regular, consistent basis. Um, which beggars can't be choosers. We're Nick Saban's not going to come through the door tomorrow in Ann Arbor. We're not going to resurrect the ghost of Woody Hayes to hang up his block O and put on the M instead. You know, we are at an impasse, and that is just this is just the bed that Michigan has made for itself, and now it's laying in it. We reap what we sow, and now it's time to move on and try to figure this stuff out. So I'm still very curious to see how many players leave in the portal. We've already had Jaden Davis say that he's going to be entering. A former high 4-star, 5-star quarterback out of North Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Tar Heels or something, just goes back home. The one I'm really paying attention to is Andrew Marsh. We need to keep him, but I'm not going to blame him if he does go in the portal. So I'd like to believe that Biff Poggi will do a good enough job, at least to start, with keeping this team together, keeping them focused, and reminding them that there are still good people there who want the best for them, and that Michigan is still a great program to be a part of. And in regards to the coaching search, personally, my number one choice right now that I would consider realistic is actually Clark Lea from Vanderbilt. The guy's a really good, underrated coach. He took over and helped turn around a very piss poor Vanderbilt team. Had a Heisman candidate at quarterback. He's upset multiple big name schools in the conference. And if the CFP was formatted properly, I mean, who knows? Vanderbilt might even be in the CFP this year. So I'm a big Clark Lea guy. I'm sure Michigan's probably reached out to his agent. I mean, they're probably reaching out to everybody. That would be a great hire, in my opinion. But in regards to DeBoer or Dillingham or Fisch, which are kind of the big three right now, I think it's safe to say that DeBoer is the best of both worlds when it comes to off the field and on the field. Fisch would be a number two. He's been on this coaching staff before, and he has a good history. And Dillingham is just like the shiny new toy. He's young, he's innovative. You don't know exactly what his future holds, but it's exciting, the idea. I mean, he's already been to a college football playoff once before and almost beat Texas. So we know the guy can coach. So I'm very curious and I'm very excited for the future. It's a tumultuous time, but I mean, I'm sorry, but there's no, knock on wood, there's no way we can get worse, right? There's no way we can get somebody worse than Sherrone Moore, right? Like, I mean, I talked mad smack on Mel Tucker, but Mel, if you're watching, my bad, because Sherrone Moore was way worse. So I believe that even without us hiring a coach right now. I mean, we're already a better team without him. Hell, the team did better with Biff Poggi anyway this season. So I am excited and I am cautiously optimistic. So we'll just have to wait and see.